stream though, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like, stream was totally fine.
720p. Yeah, but not 720p, which is just better. Here, I'm gonna check this real quick to see if I can. Oh, I'm stupid. Like, that looks clean. So why does this not look clean? Does this look clean on stream? That also doesn't look clean on stream. What the fuck?
Game?
I don't know. That's so weird.
I'm staring at what you have in the Discord. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stream. Oh, well, it is what it is. That kind of sucks. But at least now it's 720 instead of the garbage what it was before. That's fine. We go back to what we were talking about. All right. Alright, so in this game, realistically, what we wanted to try to accomplish is a pick composition versus a poke composition, right? So we have the Zoe, we have the Ezreal, we have the Karma to be able to poke it out, then we have the double frontliners to be able to protect it, where Wukong's generally not going forward here. But
it's kind of disengage, or
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we have to look at champion pools, and if champion pools don't exist, champion pools don't exist. So we don't, Black Unicorns doesn't play any actual counter-engaged champions, or like junglers that want to play into a poke composition. So is what it is. Wukong is just standard in current state, right? On the flip side, again, everybody just kind of goes forward with even the Jhin wanting to enable all of the pick people, because Jhin is an enabling champion. So, the win condition for this game realistically should be playing towards bot side, because the Leona has the ability to go onto Karma and Ezreal, generally Karma, and we can try to set them behind and punish them very heavily, along with attacking towards mid lane, because if Diana tries to go top lane and Wukong shows up, ends up being a 2v2 that can be turned very, very easily in the early stages. If Camille gets the lead, then it becomes very one-sided for the Camille side. But for the most part, Sion can be spooky here. So most ganks should occur in mid lane to be able to allow the Zed to be able to play forward. Then from there, it should be towards bot lane. Bot lane as well, realistically, this is a pick composition. There is no reason to have heal on the Leona. You are playing to kill. We are picking this to kill. So, summoner setups. Everything else looks relatively normal. Yeah, everything looks normal. I was thinking about cleanse on here or cleanse on Ezreal, but I don't think Ezreal needs cleanse here. I think if he's cleansing, he's already dying. There's just way too much follow-up CC.
that all looks great.
Alright, so runes. Camille. Alright, so this is relatively standard as well. I dislike the shield bash. I already talked about this previously in the first video, where realistically shield bash mathematically just kind of sucks. Wish it was good. It's just not. Second win versus Sion is phenomenal because he pokes you out so heavily through just tapping Q or through the use of E's or through just proccing his W on you real quickly and walking away. So second win can really help you sustain through the laning phase. But also, if it's not needed, conditioning just beats it out by 12 minutes. So we have to think, are we losing that hard by 12 minutes? Probably not. Because also Sion should be their weak side. Because both junglers want to actively path towards bottom here. Because Sion versus Camille is just kind of a dead matchup where Sion's stronger than Camille, but not by enough to make a massive difference. And then also, if you get Sion accelerated, how does that help your poke? He's not the win con. So this realistically should be conditioning. And in the bottom row, unflinching makes a lot of sense, especially versus all of the slows that come out. Then secondaries, we have Magical Footwear Biscuits. I'm trying to think if there's a better option, but I don't think there is. Do you think of one, Brent?
I mean, I don't know for biscuits. I don't know Camille's like energy output for their mana and stuff, but you can always just take Cosmic, or you can take Futures Market even, depending on if you're looking for like trying to spike early against the Sion.
So I can actually talk about that. So Futures Market doesn't make a difference on Camille because it doesn't change how she wants to recall. Right? She's not going to choose specific waves to be able to recall on to be able to get value off of Futures Market. So if we're not actually using it, there are better options. Because if we wanted to spike early, that means we're probably in a winning state and we're probably choosing our own recalls, but versus Sion, that's never going to happen. It's high wave clear versus low wave clear and needs to scale. He's going to choose when we recall, not us. Then Cosmic Insight could have value, but the problem is Camille's engage range is already so far that we're generally not even using Flash to engage. We don't even need it. We're just in and we're in. So if that's the context, Cosmic Insight doesn't make any sense either. So I think if if we're going inspiration tree, I think this is probably best, but it's a matter of like, is there a better option from another tree? Because you could
Oh,
potentially
gotcha.
make an argument for like sudden impact plus my brain is dying. Sudden impact eyeball to be able to snowball the game really, really hard, especially since you're playing pick. And lethality does have value, although less so on Camille because of her true damage.
What about? No, probably not. I was gonna say, what about zombie wards even? If you're trying to play a pick comp and trying to maintain a lot of vision.
You don't want zombie war on the person on the opposite side of the map.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this is probably just best option. Which is fine. Alright. Slam. Grass demolish, conditioning overgrowth, and then boots approach velocity. This is a fun conversation. I love talking about this one, so I'm going to rant for a second. Because I haven't talked about this on stream yet. So, Grasp is a really, really bad rune unless you have a consistent way to be able to proc it. Most champions that take Grasp do not have a consistent way to proc it. A great example of this is Gangplank, where Gangplank will just Q you whether or not you're playing passively. Right? Ranged champions will be able to hit you whether or not you're playing passively for the most part, right? So, with this context, right, if you don't have a consistent way to proc it, the argument then becomes, if you are winning, because you need to be 4 seconds in combat, if you're winning, why is the opponent anywhere near you after you're 4 seconds in combat? That doesn't make sense. If you're losing, how are you getting 4 seconds in combat before dying? That also doesn't make sense. So you have no way to be able to proc Grasp unless you have a way in your kit to guarantee it. The exception of this is the worse that your opponent is, the better Grasp is. Because then they will go for minions that they're not supposed to and give you Grasp attacks. They will be on the front foot and then allow you to be 4 seconds in combat to be able to proc it. Because once you get into team fight phase, team fights last for a total of 8 seconds and you're not even interacting with it for the entire time, no matter what champion you're playing, unless you're like pure long range DPS, like a Jinx with a pure frontline kind of thing. Then you're interacting with it the entire time. So Grasp doesn't even work in team fights. So generally the better... Oh, sorry, one additional thing. On the green tree, generally the entire top of the green tree is luxury. Demolish is a win more thing. Font of Life is nice, but the health is generally luxury. It doesn't determine most fights except for very, very specific characters like Katarina, where she can proc it an insanely large amount. And then Shield Bash just kind of sucks. So most of the time you don't even care about this top tree, or the top row. So you only care about the middle and the bottom. So with this, you can take any other keystone and still get the middle and the bottom of the green tree and be happy. So if the argument is, I want to sustain through lane with Grasp, you can take Unsealed Spellbook and go heal. Then you can go Barrier. You can go Exhaust. You can go Ghost to Ghost back to lane. You have a lot of options for that matter. If you say, I want Kill Threat, well then you can take Ignite. You can take Exhaust. You can take Ghost. You can take Cleanse to be able to get out of crowd control that would normally stop you from killing people. Unsealed Spellbook then also, once you get into teamfight phase, has absurd value. Because again, an Exhaust, an Ignite, a Ghost, a Barrier, a Heal, a Smite. Any of that in a team fight can be absolutely insane as long as you choose it correctly. So, if Grasp shouldn't be being procced unless the opponent is dumb and has gone outside of laning phase, we don't care about the top green tree, and every argument you could possibly make for why you would want Grasp outside of the opponent is dumb, Unsealed Spellbook does better. Why do we ever take Grasp? We shouldn't. It literally has to be the opponent, it literally has to be the opponent is bad, and that's how you get Grasp attacks off. And I've had this conversation before with another one of my players previously. His name's Runus. Nice guy, Riven One Trick. And he wanted me to showcase to him of just like, okay, in pros, Grasp is being run. How many stacks are they getting? So I pulled up Fnatic versus someone where it was Fnatic Adam playing Cho'Gath versus a Gangplank. In laning phase, the Cho'Gath got, I think it was 3 Grasp stacks. Then for the rest of the game, he got 3 more. 2 of them were in scenarios where Unsealed Spellbook was just straight up better, because it was a team fight. And the final one was he landed the 3-man knockup to be able to win the game. He was like I think it was like between 5 to 7 Grasp stack Cho'Gath the entire game. So why are we taking the rune? Doesn't make sense. So then with that, we also have to state, okay, we're taking magical footwear on him, which we could take magical footwear if we want the Unshielded Spellbook. And we have approach velocity. Approach velocity is an interesting one because it doesn't actually work with Scion a lot of the time. Because if you're playing correctly, if they're so far back that you require approach velocity, they're so far back that you're not touching them even with approach velocity. If that's not the case, because of your E-slow, you're probably going to get your Q regardless. And once you start channeling your Q, all approach velocity is gone regardless. So you got to get that approach velocity off really, really quick for it to have value. And also, once you hit level 6, generally in those moments where you'd approach velocity to be able to get to people, you're probably doing it with ultimate instead. And then working from there. Because again, most of the time in team fights and through skirmishes, you're stationary as Scion. You're not actually moving. So approach velocity doesn't actually do anything for you. It has no help. So then realistically, best runes here would be Unsealed Spellbook, Boots. Should be Biscuits because he doesn't have anything that he's going to like specially buy early to be able to punish really heavily. As he's probably just going to go Bomby Cinder into Power Sunfire Cape. Then it should be CDR. Then secondary should be the Conditioning and then probably Unflinching. Unflinching will give him more value than Overgrowth. Even though Overgrowth is really good on Sign. It's one of the special ones. Agree or disagree, Brent? Brent?
Shit, muted. I mean, probably agree, though I think if you're, like, worried about the Camille one-shot, if you're worried about a true damage overgrowth, obviously, make more sense, but I'm trying to look here. I mean, outside, no,
Well, even if you're worried about that, 180
yeah.
life won't determine whether or not you die at that stage.
No.
But the Tenacity will be able to get you out of multiple scenarios where you could dodge an auto attack. Or even like versus Camille. If she doesn't ult you in particular, you get slightly farther away from her so she can't land another Q off. Or that you can shield earlier or things along the lines of that. That can create so much more effective life than Overgrowth can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Overgrowth is bad. I think Overgrowth is okay. I just need to know the exact math and then it gets into like specific situations. Okay. Hi, Brent. Yeah, I know. We made it to game 2, Lemon. It's amazing. I didn't talk for 5 hours. Diana. Standard, and then this should just be a resolve tree. 100% just be a resolve tree. There's no reason to waste 1400 gold worth of stats. Especially when you're getting perma-slowed when you go in. And you have multiple dashes. There's no reason for Diana to be running these. I hate this run setup on her.
Are you doing conditioning and,
conditioning Overgrowth or conditioning Unflinching? Probably Unflinching.
Yeah,
because Sign is AD.
Cause...
Oh no, because you would want Sork Boots. You would want Sork Boots. So yeah, it would be double Unflinching, so you don't have to go Mercs. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And then Wukong, similar concept. You don't have to flash when it's melee, staying 3 metric miles back, melee. Everybody's coming into you. Flash has no relevancy, so you just want pure stats. And this should be... Yeah, this should be Tenacity, and then you would take Unflinching as well, so that you can go Ninja Tabby, because physical, all 3 auto attack. I can never see Inspiration runes work, because I hate them. They're not bad, it's just there's better options. They're okay. Zed, Electrocute, Taste, Eyeball, Ulti, that's really standard. Although on Zed, depending on the matchup, a lot of the times Ulti Hunter doesn't help him that much because he's not ulting off cooldown. And when he is ulting off cooldown, generally his ult is such a low cooldown, it doesn't actually matter.
Don't you potentially in this option want like Relentless to be able to roam to the sides of your lane?
That's what I was about to bring up. Yeah, you can run Relentless Hunter on Zed and just power just straight lethality. So you don't have to buy boots early. And then when you do want to start roaming, especially since like you have murder all across the map, Zed's job is to like nuke Zoe and move. Relentless has so much value, so I think Relentless is much better than Ulti Hunter for that reason. And then for secondaries, Bone Plating, already talked about that. Long story short, it's bad. And then Unflinching is really good here, but then we have to think, are there better options? So if our job is to roam around murking everybody because we have all this setup in the world, you're actually probably going Transcendence Water Walking. So when you have Relentless Hunter plus Water Walking plus Boots, you get around the map so quickly to murder everybody that it becomes insane. I think that becomes by far best option. Excuse me. I'm trying to think if there's another better option. I don't think Grain Tree works here because it's not your job. It's not his job to be able to stay alive. It's not his job to be able to prevent things. Because also, the only way he dies is he gets one-tapped. Every other scenario, it's either a slow bleed out where the stats don't matter because he's just getting perma-slowed, or he's in and out. So I don't think that works. Is there anything better? You could potentially make an argument for, like, Triumph coup de grace? No, that'd be worse. I'd rather have the water walking because he's overkilling targets. Yeah, I think that's just best option straight up. I think water walking transcends is just straight up best option secondaries. Okay. Zoe. Electrocute, taste, eyeball. You have Relentless Hunter. Why do you have Relentless Hunter? That's a fascinating one. And then stopwatch biscuits. Fuck, he has armor too. This one's interesting. Because realistically, Zoe versus this kind of a game, Electrocute doesn't change much. The argument for Electrocute here would be, I am chunking out the Zed so that Zed is in lethal range of me, so he does not want to fight me. But the problem with that argument is if Zed is not starting to combo you and get in your face from level 3, something's inherently wrong. And then also, if he doesn't want to be hit by Electrocute from you, he just won't be hit by Electrocute. He will sit back, he will spam Qs, he will relax, and just chill. He has the option to just chill till 6, too. He doesn't have to do things immediately. It's not like Zed falls off as the game progresses, unless a composition has point and click CC. So with that context, right, we have to think about, okay, if our Electrocute isn't doing anything up until level 6, where Zed will actually all-in us and chooses, like, hey, I'm going to go, because I can't poke him out with it, then Unsealed Spellbook becomes the best option again, just like with Scion. If the opponent can choose whether or not you interact with them with your rune, it's a bad rune. So then, with Unsealed Spellbook, you would take TP on Zoe, and then first rotation you would just take, like, Exhaust. Alright, Zed can't kill you. You get one Savior. Then you have a Stopwatch that you would buy, because you would definitely buy it early. Another Savior. Then next rotation, you can take Barrier. Saved. So on and so forth. If you get Accelerated, you start swapping from defensive summoners to offensive summoners. And you always have TP just in case something goes wrong. You have so much more flexibility in everything you're trying to do comparatively to, alright, either I kill you or you kill me. That's our playstyle. If you do want that style, then secondary should be Mana Flow Scorch. It shouldn't be Stopwatch plus Biscuits. Because when you take the Stopwatch rune, it comes online so late that either you're hyper accelerated by that point or you're behind by that point. If you're neutral at 14 minutes, you already could have had 2 Unsealed Spellbook swaps, and you're on, like, closing in on your third. So Stopwatch doesn't make a difference then. Does that make sense as well to you, Brent?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. Also, how's Texas going?
It's going pretty good.
Nice. Is the wedding tomorrow?
No, it was tonight.
Gotcha. So you are slightly hammered, probably.
Nope. Not one of those weddings.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
No, it was definitely fun. It was just it wasn't a very long wedding.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Back to game stuff. So Fleet Presence, Bloodline, Coup de Grace. That's all super standard. Jin has an Execute in his kit, so he wants Coup de Grace even more.
I was so confused. I thought we were looking at Leona's for a second. I'm like, what is this rune set up on?
Then secondaries, we have Celerity Gathering. Celerity is, again, the worst rune in the entire game. It should never be taken. It does absolutely nothing of value. When you look at the extra distance traveled, the majority of that is literally you leaving base at spawn, because you have super speed from that. That's how bad it is. Then Gathering Storm makes a decent amount of sense, because realistically, we're playing for, like, early to mid-game. So the game at 20 minutes is probably going to be where it's fully determined, and then your job as Jin is to enable everybody else while being, like, the insurance. If Jin come 4 items, walks up to an Ezreal, Karma, Zoe, he can absolutely just one-tap them. So I think Gathering Storm does have value comparatively to other options. And then, should this be Trance? This should probably be Trance then. And then secondary thought is, if we wanted to play towards pure early game, you'd probably go with the Boots Biscuits option. And then start Longsword and just power directly into Gale Force as fast as possible. So I think with Zed wanting to spike at 6, Diana spiking mid-game, Camille spiking mid-game, Leona spiking immediately, you can justify this setup as long as you swap out the Celerity and just play it a little bit more chill towards mid-game. And then, or like up until mid-game, and then mid-game you have to turn it on. So 2 items, it's go time. I think that's viable. Then he ran double adaptive. Okay, good. Yay! No attack speed there. Also like the bloodline though. Ezreal, PTA, normal, normal, normal. This is an interesting one, so I want to touch on this. So also PTA is basically stating we're looking for as much laning phase prowess as possible. We're looking to demolish you in lane and make your life an absolute living hell. When you have a Karma, you can do that. When you have a losing mid lane that will that you should constantly be rotated on repeat, starting from like level 4, level 5, it becomes really, really hard to abuse someone down bot. So generally in this context, it's better to take the better scaling rune, so especially when it's like beefy, gonna have extended fights versus Zed, extended fights versus Diana, extended fights versus Camille, you're probably looking Conqueror over top of PTA, although PTA is not bad if your goal is literally just set them down. And then secondaries, what's really fascinating is the amount of mana that you get from biscuits is just 120. Then also you can have the mana restored, right? If we cared about just the mana, why didn't we take Mana Flow Band plus then Transcendence or Gathering, right? Because Gathering can give us absolutely more value than Magical Footwear, and we also probably don't need boots early because everybody's coming into us on the opposing team. So we can just power our items, chill. We should be good to go. Whenever compositions come into you, boots are a non-factor the majority of the time because either they're on top of you or they're not. You can use the argument of like, I want to dodge Jin W or like, I want to dodge Leona E. But if she throws out 5 of them and 2 of them land, you died twice. Kind of argument. So if you dodge one more, you prevent one death, but you're still severely far behind. You spent gold to be able to do that. So then maybe, on top of that, you might miss kill thresholds because you don't have damage output that you're supposed to have. Things along the lines of that. So a lot of the time, biscuits just are terrible. Because also if the argument is we wanted health in the lane, second wind beats out biscuit delivery, even versus Jin. Biscuit delivery is just so bad, it hurts. So especially on Ezreal where it's like you can proc Mana Flow, you can use it consistently. Mana Flow just becomes infinitely better and then followed by either Transfer Gathering comparatively to this setup. I do not like this setup. Do you agree or disagree, Brent?
I would agree. I do not generally like biscuits.
Okay. Then we got Leona. Aftershock normal. Font of Life is the only option that she has. Bone Plating is terrible. Already talked about that. Overgrowth, this should be unflinching because slow at Chirelda's. Zoe Sleep, plus also whatever she picks up. Wukong generally has red buff, and Sion has like 4 slows. Actually, I was over-exaggerating, but he actually has 3 slows in his kit. Then secondaries, Biscuits Cosmic. This should not be Biscuits, this should be Hex Flash, because realistically you're looking to try to find engages. So your threat on that is much more valuable than your life when you can just take second wind, and then your life is perfectly fine. It's very, very hard for these two to poke out the Jin Leona without them being in lethal range. Then we have Karma, which is Comet, standard. Nimbus Cloak is terrible. Please take Mana Flow Band. Nimbus Cloak is one of the worst summoners, or one of the worst runes in the entire game. There's very, very little purpose behind it. Because just after all the nerfs. It used to be good, then nerfs came in. Transcendence is normal. Scorch is normal. You could also justify Gathering Storm. But if you're playing with an Ezreal, you're playing versus Leona Jin, you want to set them as behind as possible. Scorch is perfectly fine, comparatively to shield value. Then secondaries, you went Biscuit Cosmic. If we cared about health, we had another option. If we cared about mana, we had another option because we didn't take Nimbus. Or sorry, we didn't take Mana Flow. So if we're not taking Mana Flow, could have just taken Mana Flow instead and then had all the mana in the world. Then also you're missing out on Revitalize, which is really, really big on Karma with how much she shields. So we could have just gone Conditioning plus Revitalize and been a fucking monster. Absolute monster. And never died come 12 minutes. Because by that point in time, you can literally just Mantra W and shield yourself, and you just are very, very unkillable at that stage. So I very much dislike that. And ability haste, adaptive, armor again. We already talked about this previously, but all armor and magic resist runes should be held. Alright. That was nice and fast. So now we get to see the fun part. Point defense. Who runs out of base late? Who does not go to the correct spot? Always look at all chat as well, because again, always look to see who is the most... Why are we leaving base late? You had items already. We're leaving base very late. Why are we... Excuse me. Realistically, at tryouts, it's the most professional you should ever be. So if that's the context and we have that, we can remember that. Okay, we got there on time. This is suicide. He did this exact same thing on Senna before too. So he's a boy that just goes out and gets a ward. And now all of a sudden, similar context that we talked about before, my mouse stopped working. Let me fix that real quick. anyone and their mom could literally just go home, grab a sweeper, now all of a sudden both top and mid hit level 2 off first wave, and you have a losing top and a losing mid because of this. This ward is really, really bad to place in people's faces. So then, not in point defense, needs to be out here. That's correct, that's correct. Frostblood moving after seeing people is correct. Although, granted, he could just hover here. It doesn't have to be full on in the bush, but we basically know we're being pushed away anyways. Recall for sweeper, recall for sweeper. Recall for sweeper. This ward can just be on red buff so you can see where they start. There's no reason to have it here whatsoever when you can just place on the red. Okay, so in red side point defense, let's see who leaves base late. Oh, nice. So they're actively stating we want to invade. But if we want to invade, why didn't we bring all 5 members here? Or at least bring mid lane at bare minimum. Because Derek's ended up sitting here instead of being up here. So Derek is inherently wrong as well. Equivalent of the Jhin. Okay, that's not too bad. Better than previous. That's what matters. So, fun part time. Do they show where the junglers start? Yes, both teams show exactly where the junglers start. Well, that's unfortunate. So, shall we begin? With this, Camille started D-Blade instead of D-Shield. D-Blade is just inherently a bad item in current state, because the 8 AD doesn't give you enough to be able to justify anything. And then also on top of that, right, in the majority of circumstances in this entire game, you're probably not getting one shot in isolation in top lane unless you make a massive mistake. So generally the 2 potions are infinitely better, because remember, you have to deal 6,400 single target damage for this Doran's Blade to be the equivalent of the 2 potions that you lose. And that's including reducing the 8 health, or the 80 health from the 2 potions. It's 6,400 damage. Generally not happening. Right. So off of this, we realistically want to be able to see any trades the second someone uses an ability, because neither side has shown what they have, right? And with this as well, it's also grasp versus grasp. So both sides want to be able to stack this up, and both sides want to be able to trade. And on top of that, Camille has infinitely more reason to want to trade in this level 1 because of her passive. Her passive makes the biggest difference in the world because it's a massive shield that basically states your ability that you're going to use doesn't work. So Camille wants to hit the wave, wants to stack up grasp, and wants to be close enough to Sion so that if Sion uses any ability, she just autos him once and gets that shield. So the fact that Camille's this passive, she doesn't understand how Camille wants to be able to trade. Because now we're finally stacking with grasp, but already when we're on the back foot, and then now with grasp stacking, we're already down in minions because he was able to smack, Camille did not smack. And then also, again, Camille still wants to trade with shield. You want to get that cooldown started as early as possible, so he started shield. Okay. No! When did we pick this up? So Camille didn't start an ability for a little bit, right? Yeah, Camille didn't start an ability for a while. If this is the context, then realistically, if she hasn't started an ability yet, she just shouldn't start an ability up until something shows. So normally for Camille, this W start is a trap. It's an absolute joke. Because what ends up happening is you deal a little bit of damage and you get a little bit of healing, but you're using it so you don't have to interact with the opponent. So if at any point in time in the lane you have the ability to interact with the opponent, whether it's through using your shield for a trade, whether it's the fact that they're melee and they don't have a super abusive level 1, you start this W, and that's a 17-second cooldown before you can do anything else. The opponent just runs you back to your turret, and you're sad. Compare that to Q, which can be 2 auto attack resets, one of them transitioning partial to true damage. And then movement speed as well. That's infinitely better. So the fact that we have W here and we're not using it as well makes no sense. So we're going to auto and then W trade. But now, look, we just wasted our entire passive shield. And now again, Sion should just run us all the way back to turret because Camille can't function anymore. This is how bad W starts. You only take it whenever you literally cannot interact with the opponent. It's not as well. Sion has this massive farm advantage. Camille has a bad ability. You can just W the ability. Just play for 2 and then play up. So it's now level 2 to level 1. He should be running. He should be running this way as well. No, we're playing back. It's level 2 to level 1. We're seeing exactly the same problem we did with the Yorick. Dead on the same thing. We don't know when we're strong. We don't know when to fight. We don't know how to punish anything. So now we're just trying to fast push the wave. When it doesn't serve any purpose. Now Camille just holds it. Okay. So now we're just in a straight up bad state again. Where it's, okay, we want to be able to crash third wave to be able to accomplish anything. Right? In order to crash their wave, we need to actually push the wave, but we're not pushing the wave whatsoever. We're just existing. Right? So if we're just trying to exist, we're not trading, we're not using level 2 spike, we're not using our shield to be able to trade with a Camille. We had grasp up for a very, very long period of time. Camille was playing really far back. There's nothing actually occurring. We now play out to 4th wave, and just like in the Yorick game, jungler, if you make it to 4th wave, junglers are online. And this is actually a 5 camp I made. This should be a 6 camp. There's no reason it's not 6 camp. And now we just die again for no reason. Do we live here? Oh, we do live just barely. Nope, we don't. Then we trade 1 for 1 and we're still in the okay wave state? No, wave is pushing back into blue side. So both sides TP, and then, yeah, he's just in a terrible lane state again. So this is exactly the same problem, where it's just we don't know how to trade, we don't know how to interact with people, we don't know what wave states are, and we don't know where junglers are. Because both junglers showed exactly where they are, exactly what their hand is. Verbatim, exactly where everybody is. Because both top laners didn't feel like faking the leash. Okay, so Sion's slightly ahead in XP, right? Yeah, Sion's slightly ahead in XP because of the chase. Because Sion still got XP for the initial minions he killed before the gank finished. How are we out of mana already? So now we're in such a bad lane state that we just have to spam out the waves. So once this crashes... Yeah, this is crashed. Right? Yeah, this is crashed. We don't have to spam out the wave anymore. We can just let it come back into us. We don't have to do anything anymore. This is the same problem with the Gangplank play in the previous game. Where it's just we're trying to fight the opponent constantly, and we're constantly pushing the wave to do it. So this is a major downside whenever we see like the higher tier game look exactly like the lower tier game. There's no difference here. In the silence play, we are just AFK shoving, hoping to God junglers don't exist or pay attention to them. And then when we come back to the lane and our wave is pushing back into us, we are hoping to God that the opponent just gets hit by everything and magically dies before the jungler has time to reach back up top, even though the wave is coming back into us and we can be perfectly safe. Nothing makes sense. So we just waited an additional wave to get to this state. And it's an additional wave as well of burning. He was this much mana before he started shoving. So we're in exactly the same state we would have been, but 30 seconds later, and half of our mana is gone. Now Camille has all the control in the world. This will make sense. Thank you for placing a ward for safety. Ward should be all the way down here while you have the time, though. This is, okay, unironically. In 2 games, this is the first top laner to freeze correctly. Or 3 games now. Freeze correctly, and actively understand that junglers exist. He held the wave knowing Diana was pathing top. He is warding while the wave is pushing away while Diana is nowhere near. He is actively being smart about it. This is fantastic. And now Sion completely destroys the freeze and takes away the last remaining pieces of his mana to gain nothing. Nothing is accomplished. He is also trading right after Sion burns all of his abilities. Brent, I love this guy. I don't know who this is. I don't remember their face. But I already love this guy. This is the first player to have a spark of life in them. I love this. He's even getting off or farther up vision to be able to fully protect himself. I don't believe this is necessary. I believe this is bad. He should have just prevented freeze. But he's actively thinking about it. Now if he can crash this, beautiful. Trading with the Sion. He wants to be able to trade a little bit more with the Sion too, because Sion's about to be out of mana. Yeah, so that last Q put him out of the mana. That trade is bad. Just crash wave, just crash wave, just crash wave. Just focus wave. Focus wave, go home. Are we diving with Mei? Hell yes.
Oh no.
That is a bad dive. That is... Oh no.
Yikes. No. No. What is this?
What's his IGN? It's Go Dad Go Go. I remember it from that though, because I remember fucking it up. Okay, so this is a very, very easy way to play out. Camille should be starting this with an auto attack. Good. Then from there, Mei should be able to go full in. Camille should then also immediately E here to be able to stun him so that he can't function. Okay? The reason that he's walking out is he doesn't understand his ultimate resets wrong person. His ultimate resets turret aggro. So he wants to be able to stay in the middle of the fight, wait for Sion to die, and then start walking out. Now, worst case scenario, he just ults the zombie. And that resets turret aggro, and then he walks out. So the fact that he reset turret aggro here is the entire, just super, super early, is the entire reason this play goes wrong. So the play is correct. Like, what they're doing is correct. But his actual, like, button clicks are just wrong. That's doable. Oh, that's kill. That was kill. Wait. Wait. He still had zombie speed, right? Yeah, he
no,
had zombie speed going. He had zombie speed going. Yeah. So he should cut off the Camille so that Black Unicorns get, and he always gets an assist regardless. Because he hit. That's 100% his fault that Black Unicorns had the flash there. He just didn't understand the situation. Okay, it's fine. Both sides fucked that play up. So we're going Sheen plus Caulfields. I dislike this. I dislike this because Scion is someone who is going to be very, very abusive. We're also getting camped, right? So we're not having to 100-0 the Scion. We just need to be able to survive it to the point where he runs out of mana because he's screwing up, or survive it to the point where Camille can show up. Or not Camille, but Diana can show up. So what you can do is you can go Kindle Gem plus Longsword, so you're down 15 AD, same ability haste, but you have 200 more life. And you're still building into the same items. So off that, becomes much more stable comparatively. And then also, Camille is a scaler. The reason she's a scaler is because of her Q levels. Not her Q levels, but like her Q with levels. Her true damage percent conversion is not based on the rank of Q, but the level of the champion. So with that, this is why Camille all of a sudden feels really fucking strong at like level 13, because it's almost all true damage by that point. I think full true damage is like level 15. But so Camille just wants to be able to get through the early game cleanly, because if you notice how bad this trade is going here, this is the damage output of Scion. It's still a Scion. You have to still respect it. So we have to think, does the double longswords actually help us here compared to 200 life? No, not at all. Let's back this up, though. This is a mistake that a lot of top laners make. And this is a mistake that I've seen so much in these tryouts, is we go for things that we have no business going for. If the wave is coming into you, the wave is coming into you. Just relax. The worst time to get like chunked out or die is when the wave is coming into you, because then you lose everything that's coming in. So now all of a sudden, when we do try to take this fight, we're trying to fight through minions, down a level. Scion is still Scion. We queued a minion as well instead of the Scion. We're not Eing the wall to be able to get away from him when we're high mana and lower life. And now Scion can just dive us. If Scion wants to run directly at us and then press R point blank, he will. That's a bad cue. It should literally just be go point blank. Just go point blank. This is just kill. Oh, this is just kill? There's no world in which case Camille gets all of this farm. Especially after we've already warded. There is no world.
I thought it was like, even if Scion dies here, it's so good. Like,
yes.
Because you just kill Camille with your passive, and then she doesn't get that whole wave and a half.
But Scion has no way to die. So he starts with shield, he point blanks Q, and then he autos, taps Q and E's, and then detonates shield. Camille just dies. Keep in mind, she's healed quite a bit. This is the actual life that she was at. No shield because it was already used, nothing. 400 damage is super easy to do there. There is no world in which Camille gets to function here. And then also we should just be canceling Q slightly earlier there. That should be able to hit. So, remember how I said that this looks exactly the same as the previous game I just watched, and the previous game was the lower elo game? What happened in the previous game was the Aatrox versus Gangplank. The Aatrox had Gangplank at like a quarter life. So it was just, if he pressed R and third Q'd, it killed the Gangplank, and the Gangplank had no flash. And the Gangplank literally sat underneath turret for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Because they just didn't see the lethal that existed. They didn't know what their champion did. This is looking exactly like the silver game again. One side is allowed to sit under turret for free. This is inherently a problem too. Because it's now the second game that we've seen lifeless, and it's been the same thing both games. There's no change. Even through the champion change, there's no change. And now Camille has to take a bad reset because of the bad fight. That's something that's going to have to be fixed too. There's no reason to ever take that trade initially, where the massive wave is coming in. That's just impatience. Same concept. Okay. So they know Diana's here. When did they know Diana was here? Let me back this up. So we see Diana. Ah, we agreed for Demolish. Okay. Everybody agrees for Demolish. Let's be real. And then if Scion tries to ult, Camille ults. Yeah, he has no mana. He just dies here. Yeah, so we should play for wave here. It's good. But it's again another problem of like we're just pushing to push. And all of a sudden, greeting for that Demolish attack, Forced tower TP. That feels really, really bad. But it's just the same AFK push into AFK push. I do appreciate, though, this is the first top laner to actually, like, trade off cooldowns, too. Like, granted, they're not correct. They need fixed. But this is the first one to be like, okay, they have no cooldowns, I have cooldowns, I need to fight. I really appreciate that. Because for those that were there right at the start of tryouts, one of the things I said out loud was, I don't care if your team wins. I don't care if you go 0-5. I care about the context in which things happen. I care about the why. Right? Why are you doing these things? What's the thought process behind it? I'm looking for thought process here. Because if there is no thought process whatsoever, you better be a god mechanically to be able to compensate for it. If not, it's much, much easier to take the one that thinks with the equivalent skill up or with the equivalent mechanics. Because like this, for instance. Camille has ult again. We're somehow out of mana again on Sion because we just keep AFK pushing the waves. We're not actually accomplishing anything. Camille has had multiple freezes that could have potentially occurred. Hell, we even know Diana's top lane. Do we walk forward again knowing Diana's top? Yeah, even if we're standing here, what stops Camille from just hooking this wall, ulting, and then Diana's right here? It's the same thing. So we know someone's here and we just went in too early. We're playing way too far up knowing they're here with no vision. Oh, this was mechanically played so poorly. He gets out, doesn't he? Oh, no, okay. I want to watch that again. Oh, green light. I want to see the mechanics here. Because realistically, there's no way he should be alive there. That's not a thing. Found the problem. It's Nashor's Diana. Oh, Nashor's Diana is so bad until completion. So maybe he's trying to go the Sunfire Cape build, but in no world do you get an extended fight on anyone here besides the Scion. Everybody else can disengage you. Oh, so if you swap this up to actual AP, like Alternator and Dark Seal, let's just kill. Okay, so we got the third auto off. I think it was a little early on Camille ult too. Yeah, so we should just be fighting this. Does he ult? No, he doesn't even ult the Q. Yeah, so we should have just been able to kite forward there and wait out the ultimate to be able to lock him down for longer. Q2. Do we still have stun? We still have stun. Why are we waiting so long on stun too? You're just letting him run away from Mei. Oh, okay. This was just really, really poorly played by Camille. That's why this was even remotely close. So that's something to be aware of. Go seems like he has a lot of thought process, but he doesn't have hands. That's generally a problem. Because also, like, what's interesting about coaching as well is, like, I can give all the thought process in the world, all of the tools to be able to do stuff in the world. I can never click buttons for the player. Because I can never click buttons for the player, if you're not good enough mechanically to do something, you're just not good enough mechanically to do something. And the advice that I have to give you, unfortunately, is go practice it. I can give you little tips and little tricks, but if you don't have the reaction time to do something, you don't have the reaction time to do something. That's just kind of the way things are sometimes. So a lot of the times it's better to take someone with really, really good hands and no thought process than it is to take someone with bad hands and a lot of thought process. Because then you can just teach that person, depending on who they are. Look how receptive they are to coaching. Sion goes top, Camille goes top. Pushing this in. Ah, Sion had freeze again. So, Sion is up a level at 0-4. Because just how misplayed plays have been. Yeah, he's literally up almost a quarter of a level. And then he continuously has phrases as well that he just magically keeps breaking because he wants to just hit the opponent. This is the state in the game where Camille can start fighting back under normal circumstances. Like if everything was dead neutral. But it's not her spike yet. Generally at 2 items is when she fully spikes. So realistically, he should want to be able to hold freeze here because he doesn't... Does he know where Wukong is? He does know where Wukong is. Where's Mei? Mei is there. Okay. Yeah, so we want to hold freeze here to be able to deny as much from Sion as possible. The other option is he just AFK shoves for plates, but generally you get less out of that. Yeah, a lot of the times people just show up in time. So it's much, much better just to be able to hold the freeze. Is he dead again? This has become very sketchy very quickly.
I think it's just to get the plates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just very, very spooked there. So both sides know both junglers are top. Neither side should want to fight. Recalling here is correct. This is good. Recalling in that bush is a little sketchy, though. Should probably be back here. Because we don't know where... or they don't know where, Diana is. Where are we going? What? Okay. So this is super important to be able to recognize for top winners. Realistically, you are on the opposite side of the map for a reason. You are there to be able to apply pressure and then be able to TP into a fight when it occurs, right? If it occurs, and also if it's a good fight or not. So top laners generally don't start hard rotating like this unless they pushed in the wave and they're choosing to do it over top of a reset. Not the case. You already reset and they tried to walk down bottom. Or you already have your turret down, / their turret is down, so that you have an extended period of time to be able to do something. In this context, the turrets are still up. It was a reset into a walk bottom. So if Sion just stayed top, red side can just sack this dragon for this turret and multiple waves. And blue side just loses out on that. Sion shouldn't even be rotating here. Then on top of that, when the Zoe ended up one-shotting someone, that just makes the play even better for Sion to just sit top. And then you just choose not to fight here. But by this point, everybody's so far behind here, that becomes a problem. Because Zed was already feeding, Jin was already feeding. Camille is getting ganked constantly and is still neutral because of two really, really badly played plays. So then she just walks in and one-shots or gets one-shot. But in reality, she shouldn't even be there. It serves no purpose to be there. Just let the fight play out. Because also, again, previous statement as well, like what I talked about last stream and the last game. Realistically, if you're playing towards topside, you're playing towards Heralds. You want to be able to use this win more to be able to hyper-accelerate your lane or have control. If you're playing towards bot side, you're playing towards Dragons, right? The fact that we haven't seen Wukong very frequently probably means Wukong's playing towards bot and mid, right? So Wukong should be the one actively getting the Dragons, especially when there's such a high wave clear discrepancy here, and Zoe got accelerated when she wasn't supposed to. So the fact that we're rotating to a fight where we're really, really weak also doesn't make sense there. And now we're going up top, and we just lost 2 full waves on Camille, plus dying. This is a problem. So, the reason that people stopped buying Tiamat super early on Camille and Fiora was because people realized freezes exist. So you build this Tiamat whenever you've basically stated, I am now split pushing. I need to clear this wave quickly, and then I need to be able to rotate around the map. You cannot freeze on me, because I do not care. I will go do other things. So when your entire team is really, really far behind, you can build Tiamat to state, I am shoving and I am rotating, or I am shoving very quickly so I can play for turret if Sion ever leaves. That can become a valid argument. The problem is you lose a lot of combat stats for building this, because this item is really expensive comparatively to other options. And then also, you're building now into Ravenous Hydra instead of, like, Death's Dance, which can have very, very high value in the game as well. Hey, we're freezing. Also, keep in mind, once you build Tiamat, this freeze can never happen anymore, because you will always break it. All of your auto attacks are AoE now. You will break it. It will just happen. Even if minions decide not to just die. Good trade. So it looks like individual trading mechanics are fine for the most part. Goodbye, turret. Did we know he was here?
No.
Just barely didn't see him. That sucks. Either way, though, a lot of players also set just turrets that are dead.
Back?
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Focus sound. Can you toggle so we see the Wukong? Okay. Fast forward. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm
Him doing Rift Arrow with full mid prio and full top prio, perfectly fine.
No, it's not that. Just keep going forward again.
Sure.
Okay. So we see Sion back in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were pinging mid dive.
Okay. You can see the pings. I was curious because it looked like all got switched and I wasn't sure. just not paying attention that the jungle was in the area, but that makes sense if the play was originally mid.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. So that's the entire laning phase. So realistically, we can establish a couple things, right? All problems that Paradise had in the previous game are exactly still here, and we're probably going to see them throughout the entire series. Or throughout all of the games. Almost guaranteed. Because habits don't just magically die. Second, this Camille is the first one to actively play around junglers in any lane. And actively play around lane states as well. First person. We got one. But mechanics are a little bit faulty. Okay. That is doable. Because also as well, I love to be able to look at the farms. So 10-minute farm mark. What are we looking at? 64.75. This is terrible. This is terrible. This is not great. That is terrible. That is terrible. That is terrible. That is terrible. Only one person has relevant farm. And at 15 minutes. 120 is the bare minimum that should be existing. We have 2 people that made it, and they're both people who are behind. So why are the ahead people down so much farm? Similar concept. 0-4 Scion. He had the chance to pick up multiple other waves as well. And we're just so down in farm. Farm makes a lot of difference in games that people don't realize. Okay. What time is it? It is 12. That is my cutoff time. Because I'm trying to be, like, you know, responsible about this now instead of just going for 5.5 hours for one game.
What the hell?
Are you listening to? I'm going to deafen for 1 sec. Alright. For those that are still here, thank you for coming out. I do appreciate it. I'm going to upload both videos for game 1 fully and then this one. And then tomorrow night might be a little later because I got a couple things to do. I'm also going to stream again, finish up this game, go over the next couple. And what I did in this top lane game, probably going to do for the rest of the games, just because we're seeing similar problems collectively throughout everything. So if you watch any of the games, especially the first one that I went more in detail than anyone else, or any of the other ones, you're probably going to get the same information for yourselves. Almost guaranteed. We'll see a couple oddities here and there, but for the most part, that's probably what's going to occur. So I can just skim through them and be like, okay, what mechanically or what thing happened? Are we actually playing our own lane states? If we are, is there more to actually add to what I previously said? But again, for the most part, we're probably going to see the same stuff. Is what it is. Again, people are their elo for a reason, and especially when heavy thought hasn't put into the game, it's really, really hard to get heavy thought out just naturally. Where it's like a player has played for maybe like 3,000 games and all of us like figured out themselves to play around the jungler or to like how to freeze and things along the lines of that. Normally, people have to be told that initially, and then they start, like, all the gears start turning. Right? Because even to put into perspective, whenever I'm playing with someone, if their account doesn't have 300 wins, not games played, wins, and generally people are going to be negative win rate to start the game, so normally it's like 700 games kind of thing. That's the point where I start thinking, okay, this player probably knows minions give gold. The game is really, really hard because it's constantly PvP, and it's also 5v5, and there's an absurdly large amount of champions to be able to know, right? Then you also have to understand like where you're standing, all the minute details. Normally it takes such an absurdly large amount of time, if you're not being told or not putting a heavy amount of thought into it, just to, again, figure out a champion, let alone all the champions, let alone how you're supposed to interact with things, let alone freezing and what other roles do. That a lot of the times it's just not a reality. So what I'm seeing here, like, again, yeah, I'll sound pessimistic at some points just because it's like, okay, some of this stuff should be known, some of this stuff should be done. Like the fact that both supports in Game 2 touched each other a total of 7 times in 6 minutes, kind of thing. Some of that stuff should be getting done. Where it's really, really bad that it's not, but it still isn't. So it's something that needs to be addressed, kind of thing. And so, again, what I'm seeing here, very, very standard, very normal for like this level of play. Everything so far has made sense. Excuse me. Alrighty. So again, for those who have played a game or have additional comments, you're welcome to message me at any point in time, and I'm happy to talk about it more as well. Maybe there's something that you think I overlooked, or you think like, hey, I got wrong, kind of thing. It's like I talked about in the last stream. I don't mind being wrong. And I love whenever people tell me they think I'm wrong. Because then one of two things occurs. Either A, I learned something. Awesome. Happy with that. I get to coach better. Why would I be mad about that? Option B is now I was correct and I got to explain something to you better so you have a better understanding of what you're trying to do in that moment. Right? And then you learn more. Either way, it's a better learning experience when people can test me. Very happy with that. Anyways. With that, these will be uploaded soon. Again, they'll be back tomorrow night. Hopefully at 8. That depends on how much I want to blow my brains out by the time we get to the exam. We'll see. I will be on at some point in time because I need to finish this game before I forget. So, have a good night, everyone.